Hey gang, it's Ludwin. Just thought I'd give you a quick refresher video on how to create a map using the Google application Mymaps um, and some of the requirements. So this is just a quick, I'm going to try to keep it under 5-minute tutorial um, on some of the tools and how to use them. Okay, and I'm going to use the example of our Islam map that we're creating currently in class for that. Okay, so if you remember, we already started this, but it's been a couple days since we've gotten back into it. Maybe you've forgotten how to use it, or were absent the day we created it and you need to learn how to set it up. So here's how we're going to do it. Normally, I would send this out to you through Classroom and you just all have your own copies of it, but for some reason, Google will not allow me to make it rain with Mymaps. So you got to set it up individually by going to your drive. Okay, when you're on Google, that's your waffle up there. You're going to click on your waffle. Okay, go down to Drive, click on Drive if you don't know, and it'll go here. So we click on New. I'm going to do it fast. Okay, go up to Mymaps. Open that up and you get a brand new spanking awesome pretty much Google map. Okay, you can't do street view and things like that, but you have nice overheads and you can zoom in pretty well and change some details. So the first thing we want to do is correctly name our map, and we're going to start by doing our last name comma first name. Okay, and then we're going to put the title of the map. In this case, it is the development of Islam. Okay, but if you're watching this later on in the year, it's probably not that, so you should ask your neighbor. Okay, hitting save. Beautiful. Okay, the second step you're going to do is you're going to share it with me. Now, we're not going to bombard me with lots of different sharing, like put my email address in and stuff like that. Don't do that. What I want you to do is change your settings to anyone with a link. And we're going to say anybody can edit it because I want to be able to comment on your extremely awesome work. Okay, so you're going to put lots of hard work and effort into this. I want you to see that I've taken a look at it and I appreciate it. So make sure you have that open. Okay, otherwise you're just going to get a grade and I can't say anything to you and you'll be sad. So avoid that. Okay, click save. It is saving. Dun, dun, dun. And then we're going to go up here. We're going to copy this. Okay, then we're going to head back to Classroom. And if you're on Classroom, let me go back to mine. Okay, your view is different than mine because I'm a teacher. So yours is going to say open over here. You would click that. Then in the bottom left-hand corner of what they give you, it'll say add. And one of the options they say is add a link. Okay, so you're going to paste that link you just did into there. Click add. So that way, when I go to look at it, I can see them all, and there you go. Okay? All right, there's that. Let's head back to our map. Perfect. So we've got a couple other things we're going to go through real quick. One of the next steps is we want to create our first layer. In this case, we're going to rename it. You're going to give it whatever the required name is. For Islam, our first layer is going to be the origins of Islam. Okay? All right. And this one's going to focus on the life of Muhammad. Okay? So we're going to hit save. And we're going to start by putting information in there. I've already told you what you're supposed to be doing via Classroom. Okay, and you have this link you're going to use. I will always send you some sort of a link to help you out, get started at least. And that's this pretty cool little timeline right here. Okay, so what you would normally do is you'd read through this stuff. Okay, look for destinations and locations. We're going to be pulling those out, putting them on the map, giving me a description of what happened at that location, the time period, that kind of stuff, and a picture, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through that right now. Okay, so we're over here. We'll pretend I read the other thing, and I know my first place is Mecca. But we're not going up the street to Mecca, California. We are going to Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And you'll notice that it's spelled differently. Well, that's because Google takes into account the location, okay? And they know that if you're in Mecca and you're probably looking for Mecca, you probably would spell it this way and all that kind of stuff. So it's like if you Google Rome, it'll say Roma. All right, so we are going to add it to our map. And it's kind of far out over here. I'm going to scoot it in just a second. Okay, but let's go through and change some things and get some stuff down here. So I'm going to click the pencil to edit. And I'm going to say for our first event is Muhammad is born. And that was what? 570 AD. Okay. All right. And then we have some details from that entry. So we're going to write whatever our details the event were. Okay. In this case, it would probably be nice to talk about how his father died before he was born. And his mother was a widower, and maybe just some other little interesting tidbit. Okay. So I'm going to hit save. And if I get that error at the top that says it didn't save, make sure you copy and paste this stuff. Okay, make sure you copy what you wrote down. So that way, if you have to refresh it and it's gone, it's there. Okay, so I'm going to add a picture. And I'm going to type in the birth of Muhammad. So hope that comes up with some good stuff. There we go. And they don't have the one I was looking for. Actually, this is a good one right here, I think. Yeah. Yeah, okay, this is a good one. Now, traditionally in Islam, they don't want the Prophet Muhammad shown, but if you look at some of these paintings, you'll see that they actually have him on there, and that's because these are from different places geographically. Okay, um, and this is obviously from a retelling of his birth. Okay, I'm not going to go into the details about the painting, but anyway, uh, it's up to you how you want to go about that. But just so you know, it's depending on where it is, because a lot of times people who are further away from the center of the religion took advantage of that and were able to get away with a lot more creativity, creatively. All right, so we're good with that. That's pretty awesome. Okay, uh, but there's one more thing I would like you to do, and that is this pesky little upside down teardrop. Okay, we're going to change that to something that would have to do with the event. And since it's his birth, well, let's see. Let's go with this baby right here that's wedged nicely between the ATM machine and the dollar sign. Um, kind of strange there. So let's go with that. But it's a baby, so there we go. Okay. Now, if I were to go back and reread that section, which I'm assuming you all did, you will find out that the next stop on our trip is Yathrib. Okay. And if you type in Yathrib, it will take us to Medina, which is the modern name for Yathrib. And as you read through, you'll find out that they changed the name of Yathrib to Medina once Muhammad and his followers are originally kicked out of Mecca. Well, actually, they're kind of kicked out and they kind of run away and conquer Yathrib, hang out there for a while, and then go back. And that's when Muslims go on the Hajj. That's part of the journey. Okay, so we're going to do that. I'm going to just add it. You need to go through the same steps I just detailed for the first one. Okay, but I put this on here because we are going to be drawing a line between the two locations. Okay, so if we zoom out like that, oops, why are you zooming back in? That's totally not cool. There we go. We'll see that they're right there, and we want to add a line because you're going to be tracing these steps. Okay, so to do that, you click on this, draw a line, add a line or a shape. You could also do a walking route if you wanted, but I'm going to do a line or a shape for this. Okay, get us used to that. And all we gotta do is simply a nice little straight line right there. Whoops, let me double click that so it disconnects it. Okay, I'm gonna put Muhammad and mother and mom leave Mecca. Okay, and then you don't need to put any details in here, but if you want, you could do like, you know, a 1 for our first little journey there. Okay, and we want to edit some things on here. We want to change the color to whatever color you like. Make sure it's something that stands out, maybe like a red or a purple. Let's go purple, man. Let's rock it workman colors. And let's make it a little fatter. You can make it crazy fat, but I don't recommend it. Okay, I'm just saying optional, you could do it, but let's just make it something that we can see nicely. Okay, and we are good with that. Okay, and there's your first leg of the tour. Later on, what we're going to be doing is we will be creating as we talk about the expansion of the empire, we'll be talking about how they had the empire grow and everything else at the different stages. So one would be like while Muhammad is alive, the other would be while he, after his death and all that stuff. So you can actually create shapes here. And I'm just going to close that and show you it's the exact same process as with the line pretty much. Yeah. Edit, save. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. Go back over to where we were. Click on the lightness and the color. Okay, change the transparency. Obviously, you want it transparent. Okay, totally just shade it in. Okay, border width, that's up to you what you want to do, but make it something simple. Okay. All right, there we go. Done. If you have any questions, don't forget to raise your hand or ask the person next to you. I would probably ask the person next to you, then raise your hand, and I'll gladly come help you out. Okay, thanks.